Hey there, this is Eddie Babbage, founder, CEO of Timeline Genius, your host here of the Wedding Industry Insider Podcast. And I'm here with another great guest. Kate Murtaugh is the CEO and creative director of Kate Murtaugh Events based in Boston. Kate, I'm so happy to have you on the show. Thank you for taking the time to be here to do this interview with me today.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So, for our guests, well, I guess what I'll say before we kind of get to the introduction, just to let people know right here at the top of the interview, we're going to be getting into what I think are some very juicy and valuable topics. We're going to be talking about community over competition, and we're going to be talking about work life balance, specifically work life balance as a parent. So, I've talked before on past interviews about work life balance, but I've never gone squarely down the rabbit hole of balancing life when you have kids, which is a topic near and dear to my heart as an entrepreneur with kids. And I know the same for you. But before we get into the goods here, Kate, for those that may not yet know you, will you just tell us a little bit about your background and how you got to be where you currently are in the industry?
Great. Thank you. Yeah. So I have had my company now for nearly 9 years. And it started basically out of planning my own wedding and just falling in love with everything that it takes to kind of put a wedding on and what we deal with and the joy and the happiness of a wedding itself. I also wanted to have flexibility as an entrepreneur and be able to make my own schedule and be my own boss. And that was something that was very appealing to me, having grown up with entrepreneurial parents. But I did start working in the wedding industry actually in high school. I worked just as a wait staff for a country club, and I experienced the weddings in that role. And I just really became enamored by the industry and everything that kind of came along with it, and followed that trajectory through corporate events, events with higher education, and then also working through like music festivals, public relations, marketing, and then it kind of led me back to more of a social celebration and private event planning roles. So I've been in the industry for a while, and I'm so grateful that I get to do what I do every single day, and we have a really great team now, and we're based in Rhode Island and Boston. We have our headquarters is in Boston, but we spend a lot of our time in Rhode Island, and that's where I'm from originally. So we have an office in southeastern Rhode Island as well.
That is super cool, Kate. And you reminded me as well, and I'll just call this out. It's super cool. We can talk a little bit more about it later, but you're also a Timeline Genius customer, which is how you
Mhm.
and I first interacted. Do you remember what year it was when you and I first connected and you started using Timeline Genius?
Um, I
Ballpark?
don't. Maybe
They
like
all blur together for
I
me.
know, yeah, especially with the COVID.
Exactly.
I think probably like 2017 or 2018.
Wow, okay,
Yeah.
that long. That is so cool. I always just love when I connect with people and, just have the years kind of go and you see that evolution, that growth of, their company because none of us is like standing still. We're all kind of like moving forward. So that is super cool. So you love what you're doing.
Mhm.
And you're obviously working very hard. You're a mother, and we'll be talking about that. But in our pre-interview, I just latched right on to, what I try to do here is obviously serve up information, inspiration, and content that's going to be valuable for our listeners, but also kind of find that sweet spot for things that like our guests want to talk about and that they feel they're doing well. And something that came to your mind was community over competition. Talk
Mhm.
to me a little bit about just first of all, what does community over competition mean for you?
I think for me, it really means just working with, quote unquote, your competition to really create a sense of community, a sense of belonging, and really have camaraderie and partnership with the people that, by definition would be considered your competition. I think that in so many ways, especially in our local industry in Boston and New England as a whole, it's not that large. We have, it, you know, it's very obvious who my competitors are. But from the very moment I started in this industry, I really took advantage of like working with the people that I would, look up to. I would consider mentors. I would consider people that are my peers, to really develop a relationship that felt genuine, and have a connection there, because we are our biggest, I'm constantly referring other, prospects to my competitors if I'm booked, or if it's not a good fit for me. And for a variety of reasons, I think it might be a good fit for another planner in the area. And without those relationships, I think that, the referral network isn't there, but I also think that we help each other out a lot. Um, you know, I think the pandemic is a really great example of that. We, in New England, especially in Boston, really came together to help each other out. It was obviously something that none of us have experienced before, and we had no idea how to navigate the daily requests of rescheduling and um, contract renegotiations, and sometimes even planning a wedding in an entire new country or something like that because of different regulations. And so we worked together, and weekly we met and we had a call with each other to kind of just talk about like, what are you doing, and to really help each other out, because I think like if we have a really strong, powerful community of planners in our area, it only helps the greater industry, and it only helps us out because we have a broader network of referrals. We can work together to kind of help other vendors in other categories, to be better at what they do, but also for us to improve. I think sometimes planners may get a little bit of like a negative rap for being tough to work with in certain situations, because we kind of have to be the bad guy. But by working together to kind of like help, the reputation and best practices, and how can we improve as a role to help our venues and our vendor partners, I think will only just help us, and more and more as we go through the booking process with new clients, and the successful navigation of planning weddings for our clients.
That's really cool, Kate. I actually feel like, and I latched on to both of these points, the work-life balance with kids for, obvious personal reasons. I have kids and I balance that, and community over competition. I just latched onto this because neither of these topics is something that I've really just explicitly focused on. And I think this is a really deep topic because at this point in my entrepreneurial career, I've come to believe that like mindset is damn near everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and what you're talking about goes directly to mindset because there's some part of all of us that when it comes to business, first of all, we have our insecurities, and those insecurities give rise to fears and our ego. And you start looking around and being like, that sort of scarcity mindset, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's like the scarcity and abundance. You're like, oh, wait a minute. She might get my business. This company might take clients away from me versus there's enough for everybody.
Absolutely.
And it's interesting because I do feel like, and I'm interested in your sort of, this is kind of high level
Yeah.
philosophical, but I just kind of want to go up here in the clouds for a minute. I feel like they're almost like two paths that both can lead to outward success. They may not lead to inner happiness and fulfillment, but they can both. And without picking on anybody, I'll say the Michael Jordan path. Like, did you ever see? I like basketball. Did you ever see The Last Dance, like where
Yeah.
they talk about
Mm-hmm.
so, and it's almost like a meme where like Jordan's like, I took it personal.
Mm-hmm.
Like he thrived off of the competition. If there wasn't some like intense competitive dynamic, he would make one up and pretend like somebody had said something personally about, and he used that. And Kobe Bryant, rest in peace, same thing. Like these guys wanted to just get in there and dominate and tear people's throats out. And that can propel a person to success in their field. That's one path, it seems to me. Another path is like you've got people that are like, I'm not looking at this as like competition. If I'm competing with anybody, it's just being the best version of me.
Yeah.
Um, just like that sort of breakdown, like why, like, because you can do that, right? Like there are business CEOs that, like Andy Groves wrote a book, Only the Paranoid Survive. Like if you listen to Mark Cuban, like he's like, you got to beat your competition. Like how did you kind of settle on Well, first of all, you feel free to tell me if you're like, I don't quite see that breakdown the same way, or, but if you do, how did you kind of settle on this path of community over competition being a value for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think how it started for me honestly was when I when I first started my company, I didn't know how to run a wedding planning business. I knew how to plan a wedding, I knew how to plan events, I had a lot of experience in that, but I didn't know how to be a business owner. And I really looked to, like, roll up my sleeves and help people, and be on day of staff or production staff for other planners and learn from the best, and really look to them for advice, and both the pros and cons and the ups and downs of being a business owner in general, but also being a business owner in our industry and as a wedding planner. um, and I really feel strongly, and I credit a lot of where I came from as an own business owner to the Rising Tide Society, because that's where I
Mm,
kind of, where obviously community over competition was everything that they stood for. But I would not be where I am in my career now if it wasn't for the connections and the that I made through that organization, and through, like, I mean, some of those friends and some of those colleagues and peers that I met, you know 9, 10 years ago are still, close, dear friends today, that I go to when I have a question about how to do something in my business, or I'm like really torn on something, or I'm having a bad day, and I'm feeling like all my competition is, overwhelming me, and just feeling like I'm not good enough. Those are the people I go to kind of like pick me up and be like, you're killing it, or you're doing a really great job in this area. Um, and I think, I'm not going to lie and say, like, I've always felt like this. I think, especially as someone that was a little bit more junior in their career, it wasn't that easy to feel like, wake up every day and feel like, I was on top of the world, and I was, just as good as the people next to me. But I
right.
think, over time, and really growing confidence, and knowing that, I think hearing from my clients that, from the day they hired me until the day after their wedding, they felt just as strong, if not more confident in why they hired myself and my team. It really grew our confidence and our ability to really, like, think and deep down about why we're here, and why we serve people differently than maybe others, and it maybe our in our competition. And I think it kind of goes back to, like, I do feel like there's some, clients for everyone. I don't think that, um I think we all, when I look at our industry in Boston or in New England, I think that, we all have areas of specialty. We all have niche audiences, whether it's like, you know, ultra high net worth clients, middle market clients, luxury clients, if you want to look at it that way. But we also have specialties in geography, whether it's more city versus coastal, tented versus venue. And so there's, and those are the things I mean when I say, like, I will refer people to other planners. If I'm not a planner that, works consistently in the city in ballrooms, in these amazing historic hotels. We do it, and we have done it, and I love it. But we are much more comfortable, and you'll see us much more often in a tent by the ocean and in doing those kinds of weddings. So I, I look to my colleagues when we are in those venues for advice and for help, and they do the same thing for me. And honestly, it creates a better working environment. I feel like if we can all support each other, root each other on, and want the best for each other, and not be um, territorial and kind of nasty. I think that's just it's gonna hurt everyone in the end. And honestly, it's a small industry, even nationally. And I think, like, word gets around when people are not easy to work with, or don't want the best for the people around them. Um, and I think ultimately karma will kind of, turn full circle, and really, I think, it pays to be kind, it pays to be genuine, and it really pays to support people around you, even if there's someone that is technically your direct competition.
I love that, Kate. And I think, kind of how I come out on this thing, because I wrestle with the same things, right? Like, I feel like when in the moments when I look around at somebody else in business or in any aspect of life, and I feel threatened and competitive, if you look one level deeper, that is usually coming from a place of fear.
Exactly.
And, like if you're completely secure, like everything's great in my life, I couldn't be any happier, then you don't care. Like you're not in a bad way, you're not threatened because you're like, but the minute you're like, oh, I should have studied harder for that test and somebody else gets an A, you're like, oh man, like that sucks. But it's really you feeling bad about yourself.
Mhm.
And, in terms of fear, it's funny. My wife's in a mastermind and she just had a kind of year end debrief kind of meeting with her mastermind. And she said, we all look back, and the guy that leads the mastermind said his biggest lesson, the theme of the mastermind meetup was like, what's the biggest lesson you learned in 2023? And his was, as I reflected back, he's like, I made a few decisions based on fear this year, and every one of them was wrong. And you kind of, it seems like in life, sometimes you can, just being honest, I do think there are people that can get ahead just being really aggressive in
Oh,
business and me, me,
100%.
me,
Mhm.
but at what cost? Because like
Exactly.
you're never going to be happy if that's your MO, even if you're making money and even if you got clients, you're always by definition. I don't
No.
know, like this. Yeah. What are you?
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, 100%, and I kinda think it plays into our next topic of being like work-life balance and parenting. I mean, I think that for me, I want to have a company that is on top. I wanna have the best clients. You know, I wanna be known for how hard we work and what we create, but at the same time, I want to spend time with my family. I want a work-life balance. I wanna go on trips. I wanna enjoy what life has to offer and not have it, like, pass by me so quickly where I don't even know what's happening because I'm so sucked in and day out, every single night on my computer doing work. And like there's a cost benefit in that, like,
No doubt.
and I think that you have to find the middle ground. And honestly, a lot of times it is the peers around me, whether they're planners or photographers or other people that I've met in our industry, that kind of um, sometimes bring us back down and say, that isn't what's most important. It's, you don't have to book the, the most weddings out of anyone around you. You don't, I think it's like what the intention and the authenticity of who you're booking as your client is what's important. If it feels like a really good fit for you as a brand, as you as a planner, while also still maintaining my ability to be a mother, a wife, a friend, a sister, a daughter, like all those things are really important to me. And it goes back all the way back to why I started my business in the first place, is so that I could have something to be really proud of, um, while also having flexibility to be present. And I think that that's really important because agree. I think that there's some people that I even know and I consider, you know, I admire deeply that are, it's all they live, breathe, think, eat, like everything they do is for their business. And I give them so much credit and I admire what they do, but I can also see through that, well, they don't have to run their kids to soccer practice after school. They don't have to, there's a lot of things that they have decided willingly to maybe sacrifice to make that work. And it's not that I'm not willing to make those sacrifices, but I just want the balance. I want to make sure that I feel fulfilled in every part of my life. And I think that, while my business is incredibly important, so is my mental health, my well-being, as well as the people around me, making sure they feel like they get my presence and my, my time and effort too. So yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think that um, you absolutely can get ahead, but I think that ultimately I feel as though eventually it will catch up to those people, and they will feel like the stress and the burden that maybe it's put on them from putting everything they have in it, versus maybe relying on, looking out and relying on the people around you to maybe like bring you back down and say, like, you don't have to be so uber competitive. Like, there's a really gentle way of approaching it and making it feel really good for you. So
That's really cool. As you were talking, Kate, I saw this kind of higher principle that connects both of the things that we're talking
mhm.
about, community over competition and work life balance as a parent. And I think the higher principle is knowing that your business, while incredibly important, and gosh, if we don't have money, we can't
Yeah,
survive,
exactly.
right? We can't
Yeah.
feed ourselves and our loved ones. But like at the end of the day, it's not the top of the stack, right? Like very important, but like there are higher principles, at least for me when I think about it. I'm like, yeah, I could be super competitive, but the point of being in business is to act out my values. Like that's a subcomponent of my life. Like it's not worth it to compromise the values and the thing that I think I really want to stand for in life to
Mhm.
try to get some edge, which really isn't even an edge, I think, like because there are all sorts of advantages. And the same thing in the context of work life balance. Like work is like down the stack in terms of like prioritization. It's not the full
Mhm.
scope of your life.
Mhm.
The in all honesty, though, I'm sure you like me, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I mean, the reality is, like we talked about, these competitive instincts do come out of insecurity,
Mhm.
and if we're honest, we all have insecurities, right?
Absolutely.
Because the very nature of business, like sometimes it's like, am I going to get the client that I want? Is revenue going to be okay? Geez, this just came out of nowhere. Like, so as a result of that, like I'm assuming sometimes maybe you do have voices that flutter in and out where you're fearful of like, gosh, there's another new planner in my market. Talk to me about whether those voices come, and if so, how they're quieted out by your overarching value of community over competition.
Absolutely. I mean, I try to live my day to day life as a business owner and as a wedding planner with that in mind, like with that
Mhm.
mindset of community over competition, like a rising tide lifts all boats, like that is very much what I try to live by. But I'm human, um and I think that you you can't be human if you don't have those natural tendencies to
Right.
like doubt yourself or not have
Yeah.
the confidence. And you know, even this year, I mean, it's been a really weird year. I don't know about it if it's just like in our geography in our region, but it's definitely been a little bit different since, you know, I think after the pandemic there was this like mad rush and dash to like
Absolutely.
have all, you know, business was like crazy, it was
That's right.
booming. And the year, like the booking year for 2024 has
Right.
been really different. It's been a little
I've heard the
slower.
same
It's
thing. Yeah.
yeah, and but for a while I was in my head. I was like, "Oh my god, what am I doing wrong? Like what
Yeah.
am I doing?
Right.
What is my business not doing that X, Y, and Z business is doing?" Like they from Instagram, they're clearly booking
Right.
so many weddings and
There you
I'm
go.
not,
Yep.
like and so, yeah, I mean, all summer I feel like I was in my head and I kind of to what you said about the mastermind, like you have to be careful because in those periods of time where you start to doubt yourself or you lack the confidence is when you start to like maybe lower your prices or you just
Right.
want to book something because it makes you feel better than not booking something at the right pricing point, you know, the price point or um and then down the road you kick yourself because it's like no, like the people that are meant to book with me will come,
Right.
and you don't have to settle. But I think for a long time I was in my head about, oh my gosh, what are we doing wrong as a company? You know, what do we need to change? Do I need to do this? Do I need to do that? And then through my community and gaining the courage of, you know, I'm not, I think it's taken me a while to feel like it's okay to talk about things that aren't like amazing and like awesome. Like it's okay to be honest and talk to people about like,
Like
yeah,
the Lego movie, everything is
yeah,
awesome. Yeah, it's
exactly.
you probably know about
Yeah,
that.
yes, I have a 7-year-old.
We all
But
must sing that song at all times.
yeah, exactly. But through those honest conversations with people and my peers and my colleagues and my competitors, I've learned that it's not just me. And I think
Yeah.
that and it's opened my eyes to be like, it's okay. Like I think it's like that the Instagram versus reality. Like I think
Yeah.
Instagram is an incredibly powerful tool, but it can be a little deceiving even for people in the industry. And I think that when you look at your colleagues and all the amazing stuff they're doing, it sometimes can get hard for you in a moment um, you know, not knowing what's happening and where the, you know, where the trajectory of the year is going to go. And so, but I'm happy that I finally like was like, yeah, this is a weird year. Is it a weird year for you? Like what's going on? And almost like every single person I've spoken to has been like, yeah, this is like historic in a way. Like it's definitely not ever been like this. Like I don't know what's going on. And these are people of all different, you know, markets and skill sets and even venues and incredibly high end venues are experiencing this. So I think that, you know, that's an example of where I definitely got in my head and I've like doubted my ability in some ways. And like, I'm not, you know, I woke up one morning thinking like, maybe I'm not just meant, you know, maybe this is like upper, beings telling me that maybe it's time to, change
Yeah.
some things pretty dramatically. And I think that, thank goodness I never really put much thought into that. But I think that it really shows that by like leaning into your community, you can realize like, okay, you're not the only one. And I think that also gets a little hard because, we don't work in these big corporate jobs with cubicles and this huge community of people around us. So sometimes it's really easy to get stuck in our thoughts because you don't even have the natural venue to like speak and just talk about what's going on day to day necessarily. Um, and so I think having that community of people that know it, what you're doing and get it, I think is really important because you can really help each other out and ultimately just all make stronger businesses for each other and for, yourselves really. So,
That's really cool. Yeah, it's like community can, when you've kind of embraced the community over competition path, it can really be a strengthening resource when you're grappling with those inner demons that
mhm.
all of us are going to have. Anybody that says they don't, like, you're just not being
Yeah,
honest if you run a
exactly.
business, because it's too hard, too unpredictable, and
Mhm.
there are too many balls to juggle. I might have some more, if time permitting, we might come
Yeah.
back to this notion of community over competition. But as we've kind of talked about, there's kind of a blend, oddly, between this community over competition and the mindset that goes along with it and the work life balance. Um, I know that you have 3 kids,
Mhm.
and I told you in the pre-interview, when you mentioned this idea of work-life balance as a parent, not just in general, but as a parent, it really struck a chord of resonance with me, because I remember when I was starting Timeline GS and I was interviewing planners, like, it really became clear that there's a whole segment of our wedding planner, market that's like, I am a mother. And again, it goes back to what we talked about, like, owner of my wedding planning company. Yeah, that's one role that I have, but it's not the only role. In fact, it's not even necessarily my top priority when
Mhm.
compared to the fact that I'm a mother. In fact, a lot of planners that I know said, Eddie, I chose this profession. Yeah, I love wedding planning, but I also chose it strategically, intending for it to give me the flexibility to be home with my kids. Now, that said, you
Mhm.
can start out with the best of intentions and look up and just be like, I can't do either one of these jobs alone, let alone both together. Talk to me. I've got 2 kids. So when you said 3, I was like, no way. Talk to me about how you, Kate, have managed to successfully blend these 2 things, being a mother of 3 and running your company.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I think if you ask me, on maybe some days I say maybe success is not the word I would use, but I think that, you know, uh, it's hard. It's not easy. It's a constant grind to, of sacrifice and making decisions that sometimes are not easy, whether it's for the company or even for my family, because my clients mean the world to me. And if there's one piece of feedback that I get and my team gets consistently from our clients, is that they see how much we care for them. And I
Mhm.
think that kind of goes back to how much family means to me. When we take on a client, they become family. They become part of, like, if something happens to them, it emotionally means just as much to us as it does to their family. And I think that, so when I'm making these decisions and I'm trying to schedule my time out, it can be really difficult. I always give my husband a lot of credit. I don't know how I would honestly do this without a really great partner. And whether you're a husband and you're leaning on your wife or vice versa, I think that I don't know how it would be possible without a really great partner or a really great support system to help with your kids, in times when you're in production, you're on the road, and especially in our wedding season. I mean, I'm gone almost every weekend, and that's really hard. I always joke that I have serious FOMO on the weekends because my family is going to do these really awesome summer like things in our beautiful area of the country. And I'm working really hard on site, sweating and blood, sweat, and tears, putting a wedding together. So, my children are young, and it can be really hard to feel like I've missed some really big milestones and special moments in their
Their
lives.
ages again, Kate, you told me. I think
Yeah,
that's
I have a 7-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old.
right.
So,
And
um,
you've been doing this for 9 years, had your company for like 9 years.
yeah,
So
yeah, exactly. I always joke that I literally uh, launched my website like pregnant, like, just trying to
Yep.
get through, like, and it's hard. But I think that, without the support system of my family, my husband, and knowing, and even friends to like pitch in and help when I need it, I don't think I could get through this. I'm incredibly grateful, and appreciative of my team because they know how important it is for me to be a parent and to be a present parent. And we have, my team, I give my team just as much freedom and flexibility as I'm able to take too, because I feel like even if you don't have children, I think that everyone is, afforded the right to have a work-life balance. We can only be so good, at what we do, if, we're feeling fulfilled and happy. And if you're burnt out and not managing yourself, you can't be good at what you do at work either. So yeah, I mean, I think that, making sure our time is really well thought out and scheduled. I try to be really good about blocking my schedule and time. So like I don't typically do meetings on Mondays and Fridays. That also happens to be a lot of the days where I have, extracurriculars for my kids and I'm volunteering in the class, or they have a long weekend, with school holidays or something like that. So that's really been good for us. And also just being a lot more strategic about what I take on from a client perspective. I think when I first started my company, I wanted to just take as many weddings as we could and get as much experience and as we possibly could. And now we are at a point, thankfully, and we've worked so hard where we can interview clients just as much as they're interviewing us. So it allows us to be more strategic about, you know, okay, we're not going to take any weddings in the month of July. That's going to be our time to kind of enjoy summer and really be like, have the flexibility of going to the beach and enjoying family time, or hiring a team that I feel really confident in, so they can maybe manage a wedding a little bit more independently without my presence and my role. So I can be at home and be more focused on being a mom that weekend. So I think that it's all about their strategy in it. It's not anything that we can just like do on a whim, but I think like putting some thought and plan into the people around you is really helpful. And I don't think I could get by without the support of the people, my work family and my real family. So
as a wedding planner, you know how important it is to create detailed wedding day timelines for your events. But creating your timelines can be a tedious and time-consuming job. Until now. Because Timeline Genius lets you create beautiful, detailed wedding day timelines with ease. And it keeps everything you need on the wedding day in one central place. Here's how it works. First, Timeline Genius saves all your clients, vendors, and venues in your Rolodex, so you don't lose time looking for their information. And when you're ready to create a new timeline, you simply enter the key information for your wedding. Click a button, and voila! Timeline Genius magically gives you a customized timeline for your event, where all the details are laid out and the times are calculated for you. From there, you can easily edit your timeline by adding or deleting items, inserting images, changing font styles, and customizing everything to your liking. You can also instantly shift the times for as many items as you want. And when it comes to your clients and vendors, Timeline Genius lets you give them the highest level of service. You can send them tailored timelines, showing only the items they're involved in. And you can collaborate by inviting them to a mobile-friendly, web-based version of the timeline. You can even set text message reminders to automatically go out on the wedding day. And once you've completed your perfect timeline, you can download it or email it out as a beautifully styled PDF. And that's Timeline Genius, a smart software that will help take your wedding planning to the next level. Start your free trial today.
I'm going to kind of swing back to, because what I definitely want people to leave with when they're done with this interview, if they're like me and you and they're managing business, or more like you being a wedding planner, managing the business of wedding planning and doing the wedding planning itself alongside being a parent, I want them to leave with some just concrete takeaways for things that, and I'll brag on you because it's never good to say it about yourself, but you told me like, this is something, I believe we all have superpowers. We all have things that we do well, and we all have things that we don't thrive at, and we should probably be working with other people to help us with. One of the things that it sounds like that you do well, not just by your own account, but by what you hear other people reflecting back to you, is like, you're doing a great job. Like, you've got your kids, you're being a great mom, and you're also running this successful and growing business. I do want to kind of give people like a list of
Mhm.
sort of takeaways on that. But I also kind of, before we do that, like, I think there's an inner game here, kind of like what I said. I think mindset is so dang important through the coaching I've done and just experiences I've had. I'm like, mindset's really important. And this is a nerve for me because I have two kids and I run a business. And I've done a fair amount of like introspection around self-limiting beliefs.
Mhm.
And the theory being, we all have things that we believe, and most of them we arrive at these beliefs subconsciously, unconsciously. We don't intentionally choose them
Mhm.
because we get them from our parents, our environment, whatever, and we just look up and we have them. And those beliefs can serve us, or they can, these aren't facts like how tall I am or what color my eyes are or whatever. These are like beliefs. And one thing that I've looked internally and seen, because I read all these entrepreneur books and you read about Bill Gates, Steve, and you read about these people that are like what you just described, Kate. They're like, I live and breathe and do this and I own it. I can go to sports as well. Michael Jordan's a great, like, that's what that man did. That was his life, right? And everything. And that is the model for excellence that I feel like is very popularized, right? And without intentionally cultivating this idea, I kind of, because I'm also kind of like, I just work hard, I go at things. I'm like, there was this narrative of like, oh, if I'm going to be successful, I've got to really run at this. But wait a minute, I'm a really involved father as well. Like, I spend a lot of time working with my kids and all of this stuff. I'm like, without knowing it, I was like, oh, I don't know if you can do both. I don't know if you can actually be really successful as an entrepreneur and be a really involved parent. I'm not saying that's like the predominant belief that I just live with day and out, but like, there was part of me, just like we talked about with the competition, where you just have that fleeting idea of like, oh, wait, like, I'm threatened here. But like,
Mhm.
every now and then, like, I don't know if this actually is even a thing that I'm trying to be.
Mhm.
Do you ever feel that, like, because you look around and see, or is that, I mean, that may just kind of be me. Do you ever have part of you that's like, is it really possible for me to have like a thriving, burgeoning, successful business the way I want and to be the mother of three that I want? Like, is there
Oh,
any?
yeah. I mean, I think that there's many days where I feel like I'm failing at one and not succeeding at both. I don't, again, I think it goes back to being human. I think especially after coming home from like a really, it's interesting, like coming home after an amazing weekend where we like absolutely knocked a wedding out of the park. The clients were happy. We're so happy and proud of ourselves. But then like I walk in the door and my kids are just like distracted and just want to go to dad. And it's like, ugh, like that's
Yeah,
hard. I just worked
yeah,
my butt off all weekend
yeah.
and I want to come home to my family. And it's like a natural gravitation that they're just having because they've been with their dad all
And with
weekend.
the dad, yeah,
Yeah, and that's really that can be really hard.
yeah. And it touches right on that little insecurity you have about having been away. You're almost resent your spouse a little, like, dang
Yeah,
it, come to
totally.
mommy, but like, yeah,
Yeah. And so absolutely. I mean, and I think that that's always going to be present. I think even if you didn't own a business and you were just
of
working,
course.
you know, an investment banking job and you were gone 90 hours a
Right,
week and you were
right,
in like you'd feel the same way if you were trying to be a parent at the same time. I think that the 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 pro of being a business owner though is that I'm in the driver's seat and I can hopefully quickly shift and back into a situation where I can try to be great at both.
yeah,
But I think there's always going to be moments where I feel like I'm not doing a good job
yep,
um, at one, and I'm not putting enough time and effort into
yeah,
one than the other. And being a parent is a reason. I think just being a person and having personal situations come up and whether you're experiencing the loss of a loved one or you've just had a large monumental change. I have someone I know that they're in the wedding industry and their husband just got deployed. They don't have children,
yeah,
but their husband just got deployed, so that's
right,
like rocking them off. That's such
sure,
an incredible change that they're going through. So I just think that it there I think what happens in those situations is you just have to kind of do inner work to just,
yeah,
talk to yourself and just say it's okay. Like it's okay to not have like the best day ever. Tomorrow's a new day. How can you like change things for the better, rework your schedule so you can maybe take lunch off and go have like a lunch date with your husband and just get some one-on-one time, or you know, have fun with the kid, like do a date night with the kids and just make them feel like you're there and you're all in it. And I think the beauty of the wedding industry is that we are go, 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 go like crazy for a particular amount of time during the year, right? Especially in New England. I would say like May through October is absolutely bananas. It's crazy. But you know, November through April, it's relatively quiet, and it's really nice to just have like down weekends where I can just enjoy sitting on the couch with my kids and watching movies and being really present and putting more time in than normal so that it can kind of balance out. But you know, I was recently speaking with my team, and I think more so as I'm getting older and I guess some would say wiser, like I really do want to be more intentional with my time. And so by having a really strong team at work to kind of support, like being okay with delegating and making sure people feel really proud of the work they're doing without micromanaging from me, I feel like that will also allow me to be more present at home, and really enjoy and really excel at work too, because it's allowing me to kind of have the best of both worlds and really focus my time in a better and more efficient way.
I love that, Kate. And, just to kind of close the loop on, my sort of confessed self-limiting beliefs, in case there are others like us, that if you ever wrestle with that, like I've actually intentionally chosen like affirmations and stuff to attack that narrative, to
Mhm.
just lean into the fact that no, actually, I do believe it's possible to have the thriving business that I want and to be the kind of involved
Absolutely.
parent that I want. And how cool it is when you do both, right? Like,
Oh,
because
yeah.
at some point you're going to look up, we're going to be older, and God willing, like our children are going to be older. And there's no world where I can fathom looking back and regretting having been present for my kids,
Oh,
and it is possible. It's not easy.
mhm.
It's surely not easy, but I do believe it is possible to do both. And for you, I wonder, Kate, if you're on my page about this, because, in the early days of parenting, people told me, look, yeah, when you have kids, you're just going to get more efficient. They told my wife the same thing. True, I did get a lot more efficient than I used to. I mean, I used to watch TV, whatever, roll out of bed at like 9:30. Now my 5-year-old was up at 5:30 a.m. I'm like, I'll spend hours. It used to be if you got up real early, you'd get a workout,
Mhm.
meditation, eat a good breakfast, and start work early. Now it's like I got the kids dressed, battled about like getting them to eat. That's
Mhm.
always like every morning. That's an epic battle,
Painful.
getting my 5-year-old to eat. But like, yeah, I'm more efficient. But truth being told, that increased efficiency does not offset the sheer reduction of work hours for me. Like I have just less time to work on my business than I did as an entrepreneur before I had kids. Again, though, that's just me being honest. I feel like calling, because some people are like, oh, you'll get more efficient, you'll get
Oh,
just as much done. I think for me and my wife both, we had to realize, no, you're not actually going to get as much done because I used to work 12 hours a day or whatever,
yeah.
but I can still get enough done to get my business where it is today, obviously, and where I want it to go. How do you kind of feel about that?
Oh, yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, I think it's for a long time I kind of fooled myself into thinking like, oh yeah, like especially when my children are young, like we don't need like full-time childcare, like I can balance it. It's not
Right.
that quickly went out the window. But yeah, my kids, I mean, I have one child in like full-time elementary school, and
Yep.
then I have my two younger ones are in full-time daycare and preschool. And so they're at school from 9:15 till 4 o'clock.
There you go.
And that's really my hours to get stuff
Right.
done. And same with my husband. He works from
Right.
home, and you know, we don't really, it's as if we both work from home most of the time. And it's as if we're not even, we're in the city, not with each
Right.
other, because you don't
Right.
hear from our two
Right.
offices.
Just
Um,
dialed in.
yeah. And I mean, there are definitely times where both of us have to like work once the kids go to sleep.
Hmm.
But, um, most nights in some capacity, and we have to like, or I have to do a call at 8 o'clock and we have to trade bath time or bedtime or whatever it might be. But yeah, you have to be much better at your time management because you really have stricter parameters where, pre-kids, I could come home and really never turn off. I could just sit on the couch and do work while I'm watching my show and having a glass of wine and really, spend as much time as I want on something
Yeah.
without like a really strict limitation, except for maybe a deadline from the client end of something. So it's definitely different. And, it also kind of is a big reminder too, like when I am too sucked into something and I'm not turning off or shutting off when I should be balancing that with my family. And like my 2-year-old is like, "Oh, mommy, are you doing work time?" Like that's always like a sucker punch because it's like she's 2 and she gets that like I'm paying more attention to my phone or my computer for emails than I am with her.
Yeah.
So that always kind of brings me back down and like it's like, okay, I got to get better at this so that when they are home and we are a family and we're all here, I'm much more, I'm tuned in and I'm present. And that's a daily battle. It's something that I'm never going to be perfect at, and my husband is going to have to remind me and I'm going to have to remind him. And it's always like trying to work at just always being good at being present in both from that 9 to 4 position with my clients and my business and making sure my team feels great and empowered, but also then on home hours when I'm being a mom and or a wife and making sure they're feeling my presence and my time. And so yeah, absolutely.
I love it, Kate. And we've talked, maybe we've already kind of addressed the thing that I'm getting ready to ask you for, but can we put together like a top three sort of bullet list? My
Yeah.
brain just works in bullets. Like, for like, what is the Kate Murtaugh recipe for managing, um, being a wedding planner, running a business, and being a mother? Like, what's your number one, just sort of practical? And I've heard some words, but I'm not gonna lead the witness too much here. Like, what's your number one sort of practical, strategy or tactic for juggling these two heavy balls?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said at the very beginning, like lean on your village. I think that lean on your village at home and whether it's your partner, or your family or your childcare or whoever you have at home to really help support your dreams, so that they can kind of pick up the slack maybe when you're off at work or you're on a call and the kids still feel like they have someone there and the family still is like connected in some way. I think that's really important. So I think like leaning on your village is huge, both at home so that everything is running smoothly and your kids feel like they're getting the attention and the time they deserve. Um, but also leaning on your village at work. And I know what it's like to be a sole. Like I didn't always have a team. It was me for a really long time and just me. Um, and that's really hard, especially being a parent and a mom and balancing. And I even think back to maternity leave. Like I didn't get a maternity leave. Like I had a baby and within 3 weeks I was on site producing an event. Um, so that can be really hard. But if you are afforded the chance to have a team, like lean on them too. And I think like it's a game of give and take, and there's going to be sacrifices that need to be made on both sides of it. But if you have a really solid group of people behind you at work, it will allow you to also have that time and what you need at home to kind of work too. So I think that would be the first and foremost is just to rely on the people around
I
you.
love that. Did you make up lean on your village?
I kind of did like right
Oh
off.
my
Yeah,
God,
yeah,
that's a T-shirt, Kate. Love
it is
that.
a t-shirt. There you go.
It's got a ring to it. All
Yeah.
right. So lean on your village. Point number one. Point number two. Just kind of Kate Murtaugh's playbook here
Yeah.
for managing this.
I think a lot of people, this one may be a little controversial, but I feel like it's what kind of I've gotten a lot of success from. And transparency in my book is key. And I think that I am always transparent with my clients and my prospects about being a mom, being a present family person, and and before people even sign a contract with me, they know like I'm a mom of 3 kids and I am an entrepreneur, and that is really, really important to me. It's even in like my,
I love
you
that.
know, the guide that I send people when they reach out initially through my contact form on my website is like a picture of me and my kids. And so I think that by setting the tone and the expectation really early, it's not going to be as painful when I have to like email a client and say, I'm really sorry, but I need to reschedule this call because I have a sick kid at home, or I need to run to school and go do something. They go into the relationship with the expectation that like, I'm working with a planner that's awesome and amazing at what she does, but she's also a mom and things happen and it's life, and I need to be okay with that. Not every client's going to be okay with that, and that's okay. And that just kind of goes back to the community over competition thing, where they may be a better fit for another planner, and I'm okay with that, because if I'm working with someone that's not okay with me being a parent, it's not a relationship that's going to work, because my family is everything to me, and you can see that through the work that I do even. And honestly, I've gotten a ton of feedback from people that say from our clients that say like they appreciate that I'm a parent, because I know what it's like to balance absolute chaos at all times. I know what it's like to have things thrown at you and you have to think on your feet. And it's not that other people that don't have kids don't know how to do that, but there's a certain like I mean, we have to do it to get by, right? You have to balance a ton of things going on at the same time from the moment you wake up as a parent until the moment your children go to sleep. And so I think that I've been able to really um, find some incredible clients that respect that and support it, and not only tell me like, Kate, do what you need to do, but like follow up and ask me, is your son okay, like did everything work out, and like that. Those are my clients. Like those are amazing people, and those are the people that, on the wedding day, they are family to me because they understand what family means to me. And again, it like they can see the time and the attention that we give back to them because of the love and the support they've given us as clients to kind of have that balance as well. So I think being upfront and honest and open about it is awesome. I mean, I know a lot of people that have gotten pregnant and honestly feel the need to actually keep it a secret from clients, or like not tell people until after the baby's born. And that is totally fine. It's what works for their business. But for me, it makes me so sad that people feel like they have to do that because clients are going to think that they're not up to the job because they can't balance it both. In fact, I think it makes us stronger candidates for the job. Um, and I know a lot of people agree and believe in that too. So just having the honesty and transparency about being a parent and balance, having that balance. But I think that it's totally, it always kind of helps in the end, honestly, because it shows like you can balance, you can prioritize, and that at the end of the day, a wedding is about joy and family and love. And to see that as a planner, you have that on both sides of your life, I think is really valuable to your client.
I love that. And I love the idea of being who you are, because then you're attracting the people you really want to attract
Exactly.
rather than projecting a false self, which might, yeah, you get the client, but are you really, do you want that?
Yeah.
Ye-
You
So,
want people that respect your boundaries too. I mean, I'm a human. I don't want people emailing me. I want to be there for my client in every opportunity I can, but I also don't, I want there to be boundaries and for people not to feel like they can take advantage. And I feel like as a parent, if you can, that's one boundary you can put up right away and people get it and usually respect it really well. So, absolutely.
so leaning on the village, being transparent, give me a third, Kate, just right from your playbook that's allowed you to manage as you have, being a parent and a business owner and a planner.
I think, being okay with not being okay. Like, I think that it's okay to have days that are not going to feel 100%, but picking yourself up and having that like inner, working on, those, affirmations or those, the reminders. Like, my someone on my team and I keep saying we need to print all of these like really beautiful notes and cards we get from people, and or like letters of thanks, and put them on the wall for the days that we're not having good days, so that it reminds us like we're still doing a really good job. And I think that um I could do the same with my kids and my husband too. And I think it's okay to have days that are not going to feel like you're on top of the world. That's human nature. It's life. I feel like the last couple of years should be a reminder that we should be thankful for a lot of other things in terms of like what's going on in the world. Um, and it's okay to have days where you need to just shut your email off and walk away and have go for a walk and so that you can get refreshed and fill up your cup for a really great day the next day. And so, especially when you're a parent, I think there's going to be days where there's tantrums at home. And to your point, like one day my 5-year-old likes chicken nuggets and the next day she loathes them. And it creates a World War III at the breakfast table when I'm making their lunches. And it can like set the tone for the rest of the day, right? Because you're like, this is so frustrating.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, I think like we're human. And, um, I have this saying that I've said since I was a little kid with my parents is to like think happy thoughts. And I
Yeah.
think like if you can just, even in the days that feel really hard and tough, whether it's like some really constructive feedback that didn't sit well or feel great from a client or a vendor, or, your 7-year-old looks at you and says like, I don't like you today. Like
Yeah.
having the days where you can just be like, it's okay. Like think happy thoughts. Tomorrow's a new day. Pick yourself up. I think that's really important because it's, you know, give yourself grace and, give the people around you grace. Everyone's going through something. And I think another thing that's really important is like kindness is key. And um, I'm a firm believer in and being kind. And I think they can go a long way. You never know what someone else is going through, whether it's something at home with their family or even at work. And to just be kind can go a long way when someone's having a bad day. And I think what I find difficulty in our industry sometimes is I think in the heat of the moment, it's a stressful job. And so people can be unkind sometimes. And that can travel with you. And so it's like it's good to just treat people with respect, treat yourself with respect, be kind, and tell yourself it's okay to not be okay. Just, tomorrow's a new day and let's just start new and fresh and give it your all.
I love that, Kate, as you were talking. So I'm glad we've got those three nice bullets
Hmm.
to wrap up for people, and we'll call them out in the show notes. There are two questions that I want to ask you before I
Yeah.
let you go. This interview time flies, as it always does when we have
Yeah.
great guests like you on the show. But as you were talking, I was just like really proud that you are a Timeline Genius customer, that you're a part of our community. Like our values, just your community over competition and being kind. These are things that for me, again, like the work thing is down here. What's higher than that is who do I want to be and what do I want to do with this precious finite amount of time that I've been given that is my life, right? And like work is one part of that. Kindness is something that hopefully like making this world a better place, like, and putting positivity out into the world is like up
Mhm.
very high in the stack. So I was just kind of thinking about the gratitude for you being in our community, and also I was like, this is a good segue because I do want to take advantage of the fact that you're a Timeline Genius customer. I tell people, that are listening to our podcast, like if you spend any amount of time doing wedding day timelines, and I'll say this now and shout it from the mountaintops, go to timelinegenius.com. Just watch the video on the homepage, start a free trial. It's just the best way that I think there is in the world right now to create,
Mhm.
edit, collaborate on, and execute your wedding day timelines. There are all sorts of features. Every wedding day timeline is unique. So you can start with our artificial intelligence genius feature. Just put in the key information, click a button and generate it, or you can start with your own template and it will repurpose that. You can shift 20 items 10 minutes ahead, or click a button and get a tailored version of the timeline for your DJ. You can set text reminders to go out. So again, just timelinegenius.com, folks, start a free trial. I would love for you to just see what it does. But my first of two questions for you is just as a Timeline Genius
Mhm.
customer user for years, do you have any just quick, very candid sort of thoughts on your experience?
Well, I think a lot of what we talked about today, I mean, work-life balance is huge, right? And your day is limited, your time is limited, and timelines can be an absolute beast to work with. They're not fun. Um, they, you know, they can be so intricate and so detailed and so involved. So to have something that is templated in a way and um, like even just like the Rolodex feature to have all of our vendors saved so that I don't have to input their information over and over again because we work with a lot of the same vendors over and over. I really value our vendor partnerships. is huge, and it just saves so much time. So in a day that, my time is really limited and I need to be really um really focused on where I'm putting my time, I our team couldn't be more grateful for the efficiency that Timeline Genius has given us. And so we love it, and it really is so nice because no two weddings are the same, but they might have a very similar flow, or they might have a very similar feel. And so the ability to like duplicate a timeline is awesome. The Rolodex is an incredible feature. um, and I was saying to you earlier, I just think it's amazing. Like the customer service is amazing with working with you guys. And
Yeah.
um, you know you're always open to like new feature opportunities or ideas, and I think that's really important. But I think one of the biggest takeaways too is that more and more people are using Timeline Genius, which is an amazing thing for you. So I think more vendors and venues are seeing those templates out there. But especially like couple years ago, people were like blown away at like how neat and orderly and templated and organized and brand and like nicely branded they were, and still are. So I always, we always get like feedback from people that our timelines look so nice compared to some others that maybe just do them in a Google Sheet or an Excel spreadsheet. Um, they're really easy to follow. We always create a version for the couple and their families, and if it's easy to follow for them, then that's always a really good sign. So we just really genuinely enjoy using your product, and I can't imagine our workflows and our processes without it.
Well, Kate, you are literally who we built this for. Somebody, you're running a business successfully, you're invested in that, you're a mother, and you're just a wonderful person. So I appreciate that feedback. My last question for you, kind of slight tangent here, but I ask everybody that I go on the show, this is my last question, is if you could give one piece of advice to everybody listening right now that would be your best piece of advice to help them succeed, what would that one piece of advice be?
Hmm, that's a good question. Um, I don't know. That's tough. I mean, I think,
It's a tricky one.
yeah, I think, going along with kind of the conversations we had today, I think that, um, you know, just really leaning on your village around you. And I think that can take on many different roles. That could be your family, that could be your work family, whether it's the team you manage or the team around you. But it could also be your community and the industry professionals that you surround yourself with. Um, you know, there's going to be times in your life or in your professional career where you need those people to really lean on, ask questions, vent, have the support system of friends and family and colleagues that know what you're doing and get it. Um, and without them, it can be a lonely trajectory, really. So I think that entrepreneurship in general can be hard in so many ways, but it can also be fairly lonely, if you're not surrounded by a large team, or post COVID, as so many people are working from home now. So you kind of get in this bubble of like working in your home office and not being surrounded by a lot of people. So just really having you know, the trust in the people around you and developing those close relationships, even if it's someone that you'd consider your competitor, I think it really will pay off in the end and really just help you, have the confidence and the trust in yourself to succeed, but also to be, equally a good person to those that need it as well.
That's awesome, Kate. What a beautiful place to leave it. And if folks want to connect with you,
Yeah.
reach out to you if they have questions or just want to network, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Yeah, they could. I mean, email is awesome. My email is kate@katemurtaughevents.com. And I'm pretty active on Instagram. So if anyone wants to just send me a DM, or, I love to talk to people that are going through similar life experiences while also managing a career, especially in the wedding industry. So I'm always kind of a shoulder to lean on, or talk to them, talk to me about something, and always an open door. So I would love the opportunity if anyone wants it.
That's so awesome, Kate. Well, on behalf of our Tom Genius community and all of our Wedding Industry Insider podcast listeners, I want to say thank you for taking time to do this, and
Yeah,
maybe, even more importantly, just for being who you are in our industry and putting out these positive vibes and values of community over competition and being kind. Like, we're definitely grateful for all of that.
Thank you, Eddie. I really appreciate it.